Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to be talking about preliminary planning for a survey. Now, this is going to be a slight departure from our normal format in that we are going to be specifically looking at the material on a course website and walking through the process of grabbing each piece of information. So rather than a prepared set of slides, once we're done with our preliminaries, you'll be seeing me working in the web browser, sharing my screen in Microsoft Word, and other steps to drive home how we go from one piece to the other. With no further ado, let's get those preliminaries out of the way. So, if you're not familiar with the Online Writing Center, we work with students at just about every online program at ACU. If you're a student enrolled at the ACU Online or ACU Dallas campus, chances are we will field questions for you. We can do appointments with you. We can give you feedback on a draft. To make an appointment, just go to my.acu.edu and on the drop down list of resources, select the quick link for the Online Writing Center. Once you click that, you'll end up at a landing page. There'll be instructions step by step and a video that you can watch if you'd like to walk you through the steps, or just follow the main link to get to our scheduling system. I'd say that my experience with students, about half watch the video and follow the instructions, the other half just click through and find it intuitive. So whichever works for you. We work with students at any stage of writing. You could be just brainstorming as you read the instructions. You could be looking for feedback on something you've partly written out, completely written out, gotten feedback from your instructor, and are looking for how to follow up on that. What matters is that if you have something that you feel will be helpful to get another set of eyes, whether in the general feedback or about specific things that you have a list for, we're happy to work with you. You can make two basic types of appointments. There are asynchronous appointments where you schedule a time, and by the time that appointment rolls around, you upload a copy of your paper and any special requests for feedback. We look at it, we send you feedback generally within 24 hours. If, say, it's a holiday weekend, it might take a little bit longer, uh, but in general, we aim for less than 24 hours. And of course, if you have an appointment on Sunday, or on Monday morning, we will make sure to get things back to you in good time for you to be able to respond to that feedback before the assignment is due. Now, you can also sign up for a real-time appointment either by phone or by Zoom, in which you can schedule a particular time and talk with someone in real time and ask questions back and forth, share your screen. Which works better? Kind of depends on your schedule. I have a lot of students who are very busy and usually working late at night, and so they like to upload their paper and go to sleep and not worry about it till the next day. Other people prefer to have the back and forth and to sometimes see things being modeled to them in real time or see, oh, that's how you do that on the screen. And so you might elect for a Zoom appointment for that. But pick whatever works for you. The You can go back and forth, and students do go back and forth between the two. All right. If you are looking on our webinar page for other resources, be aware that there is this tab guide if you scroll down, and you can select, say, undergraduate to see all the webinars we have that directly tie in with undergrad courses. You'll see us referring to the APA course paper template later. We have a YouTube channel for watching our videos on the go, and we also have a blog. All right. This ends the slide portion. The rest of the things that we're going to be doing are going to be within the course website and within Microsoft Word. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started on that portion. All right, you should now see my screen sharing my web browser here. And I've brought up the course website, and you can see that we are looking at the instructions for this assignment, the week one, assignment one in Commo 291, Project Groundwork. And you can see we have a very brief preamble. Okay, the goal of this is to start thinking about how you would create a survey over the course of the semester. And we have some instructions here, some of which is more, here's some things to think about, and here's some things that are about deliverables. So let's separate those as we go. I always recommend that people keep the end goal in mind. And so if we were to say, skip down here to the grading criteria in the rubric, we can see that this is asking us to state an overview of the organization that's being studied, its history and why it exists, to identify a broad question and explain why this might be a good thing to answer, and to also keep in mind the length. So this is 250 plus words, so it should be a full double-spaced page, not half a page, not three-quarters, at least one full double-spaced page. And if it's a little longer, that's not a problem, but both this section and that section have minimum word counts. And so overall, it should be at least 250 words, which is more or less a double-spaced page with 12-point Times New Roman font. So if you're working in our template and you go over a page, you should be right in the area you should be for length. All right, so let's now turn back and look at what we're being asked to do. So we can see the guiding instructions. You are going to complete an applied survey research project from start to finish. Okay, great. By the end of week 7, you will have created a survey, analyzed the data, and written an executive report that summarizes your findings. All right, so that's where things are leading. This week, you're going to lay the groundwork for your research project. Think critically about your answers. You'll be tied to your decisions from this week for the rest of the semester. So the decisions you make now will affect what you do later. So I'd say make sure it's something that you're actually interested in the answer to. That will make it easier for you to work on this and also be more useful for you professionally. Now, whether you do this about an organization that you are working for or otherwise a part of, that can go either way. I will say that in my experience with similar assignments, I've often seen students writing about a place they have some interaction with, but they are interested in working with that organization or one like it. So I remember one student who was planning on going into student affairs. So they wrote it about their college as the organization, and then they were able to refer to that when they were interviewing for student affairs positions and ultimately went into that. And so if that's something where it appeals to you to create either practical work, a thought exercise, or a work sample that might benefit you in your future professional journey, by all means. All right, let's take a look at what it's asking you to write about the organization. Choose an organization that you are a part of. This could be a workplace, church, or any sort of team. And by the way, some people have done it about sports teams that they're involved with. If you're just joining us, we are talking through the description right now for the week 1, assignment 1 project groundwork that is the basis of our discussion today. All right, so this instruction, choose an organization that you're part of, could be a workplace, church, or some sort of team. Get creative. There are no limitations on this type of organization you can pick. So the instructor is not limiting what you can do so long as you can claim to be part of this organization. And so I would repeat the earlier advice. If this is something where you have a personal or professional interest in deepening your relationship with this organization or one like it, it's a good idea to pick a question that you think would be very helpful there. All right. Also one where you have connections here. And it's always helpful to remember that it is very rare to get something approaching 100% participation in a survey. If you ask 20 people and 20 people agree, the follow through is usually not great unless they're there and then. But if you think that you could get 20 people, say from your church, from just getting people to fill out the surveys on hard copy right after church service during the coffee hour, well, that might be something where you say, okay, well, I know I can get that there. So that's going to drive my choosing this organization, as opposed to this other one that I really like, but I think I could probably get 6 people easily, and I just don't want to spend a lot of time chasing people. So these are practical considerations that you might have in mind. And just to reiterate it, this is saying only choose an organization that you have access to and that has at least 20 people you are confident will respond to the survey. All right, so once you've selected it, in 100 words, provide an overview of the organization, including its history and why it exists. Make sure to put this information into your own words and don't copy and paste. So no quoting here, let's paraphrase everything. All right, now 100 words may seem like a lot, but it's not. And we are going to go ahead and grab a copy of the APA course paper template and walk through how you might write such a description. All right, now if I click on the APA formatting guidelines link here, that brings us to this landing page. And the link we want here is specifically the link to the Writing Center website here, APA resources. Now, the Online Writing Center website has a lot of stuff about APA, but we are most interested in this course paper template here. You can always get the newest version from our website, but we have a variety of other resources, including common questions, a handout you can print, things like that. So we're grabbing a copy of that course paper template. I'm just going to download it here, and we will open that up. All right, you should now see my screen in Microsoft Word. And if you're wondering, okay, great, things look good, but I need to get rid of those comments, easy peasy. So if you go to the Review tab here on the ribbon, you can select this button for deleting a comment, select this little wedge here, and you can delete all the comments at once. Great. Now, in our case, this is a short assignment, no abstract. We'll just delete that page. And we'll take out all of these placeholders here. So we have placeholder references to show the formatting. We'll get rid of those. By the way, if you end up with a paper that has no references at all, you can delete that page there. All right. So now that we've prepared the way here, let's go ahead and take a look at the assignment instructions here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste the instructions into this window. All right, now conveniently that's in a different font, so we can easily recognize that that is not something we're going to keep. That's just there for convenience of viewing here. All right, so if you're describing the organization, you can just start by naming it. Now, you could say the selected organization, and that's fine, that it does tell us. But you could also say my choice for an organization, because this is really about the one that you are doing. Some people that feels a little too impersonal. It is allowed in APA style, but if you do end up saying the selected organization and for this survey, that is specific enough. And let's just say I was doing this and I decided I'm going to survey a church that I worked at. Okay. Is St. Mark's Presbyterian and then put the location. So we've identified the organization. So tell us a little bit about it. And then you might have some things that you need to go look up. That's fine. You can leave placeholders as there. And let's say for here, 150 people in now, one of the things that you might be considering as you're doing this is, well, is this information available? Now, these days, a lot of churches will have it on their website. They might have a flyer, or you can ask. And often there'll be records that they can access at the office. And if you're planning on administering the survey there, well, this is a way to prepare them and perhaps get a slot in the bulletin or an opportunity to speak at the podium. At the church I work at, one of the youth is doing a bicycle drive, and so they spoke in front of the parish at the end of the service and got a couple people agree to donate bicycles for that, which is great. Now we could go up to the top menu and select tools, word count, and just see briefly how many words we have. So we've just started, but we already have 35 words there. That's a third of our requirement. So you can see that introducing this organization will go pretty quickly. So, all right, the average parishioner age is, and this is something that you probably need to ask at the office. Okay, now if you're writing it, its history, and keep in mind, if you are going with the flow of ideas, you can leave placeholders to go fill in, especially if it's something where you kind of remember, but not the specifics. Now, again, writing about the organization, understanding what it is and how it is appropriate for your survey is something that you probably won't have too much trouble, because you can see just starting to write here and with some placeholders, I'm already at 83 words here. So we'll get to 100 pretty quickly. All right, now let's look at the next requirement. And so again, we're going to grab the instructions. And we can see here, okay, identify a broad question that you or those in charge would want answered. So let's ask, what is your interest in this? Now, I can talk through a couple things that might come up depending on your role. So for example, if you were the pastor, you might be interested in, well, what has kept people here and what can I do to encourage that? Or what do we want to do to grow and challenge? Or how do we have more youth participate? Or how can we do more X? So looking at this, okay, the sample questions we have are, how do churchgoers feel about our worship services? Behaviors, why does the staff seem to be unsatisfied with work? So the first is more gathering information, and well, let's find out what's out there. The second is more problem investigating. Okay, why do the staff seem to be unsatisfied with work? Or even patterns. Do women experience more team friendships than men? Now, every church is different, but I've worked with enough churches to know that there are a couple signs that things are going well and some things that may not be ideal. And this is because I usually work with the churches in music ministry. And when people hang around to listen to the music afterwards and applaud, I'd say generally speaking, the music is going well. If the last organ tune starts and everyone gets out, then at least from the musician's perspective, not so well. So when you are looking at this, we can break this again into a number of different categories. Are we trying to chronicle or report what is going on? Are we trying to solve a problem? And that might be understand and then solve. And your survey, if you're doing that, should be gathering information that will empower you to solve it. You're not going to solve the problem in this project, but instead if you were taking that angle, get the information that you would need to start working on that. Now, the third one, do women experience more team friendships than men? I would ask the question, so why is this important? And there are a whole bunch of ways you could answer this. But I would say in this, if we were looking at, oh, hey, we noticed that the 3/4 of our parishioners are women. And we're looking and say, well, hold on. We all those men were coming to visit, but they never stay. Then you might be saying, okay, well, what is going on, or why is that happening? And how can we make this happen in another area? So that would be identify success factors that could be applied elsewhere. Now, I don't know which angle you will take, but whenever you're designing a survey, it's helpful to keep in mind what you want to be able to do with the information. So let's say I'm working on the music here, and the question was, how do churchgoers feel about the hymn selection? And that's hymns, the music, not hymns as in men. All right, so how do churchgoers feel about our hymn selection? Well, you could ask them what their favorite hymns are, or do they hear the hymns they want, what they would like to have heard more, like to have heard less, what they would like to request. Do they feel that they want to have more of a voice there? And, in the years that I've worked for different churches, I've seen many different ways that people have done this, including one of my favorites, to make a donation to the music program to retire a hymn for 1 year. So if there's a hymn that you really don't like, you can donate to the church. And, the music program is generally not upset because this is music that's being donated for their use. And, well, if that works for you, if that's what you like, great. But that is going to a deeper question of wanting to understand how people feel about the music, presumably with the goal of making someone more happy about it. It could be the director, could be the pastor, could be the congregation as a whole. It could be you in some business sense. Uh, One of the areas where this comes up in a cost setting is if you were, say, looking to update a hymnal, or looking to redecorate the church, or redecorate the church less often if you're trying to channel volunteers. So let's say that we pick this one here and made our question, what are the factors that lead one-time volunteers at the church to not return? Now, we want to be specific. At the church, we don't mean any church. So let's make that at St. Mark's Presbyterian. And so if this is our broad question, then we can now ask ourselves, okay, how would that be beneficial to the organization and to me to answer? And volunteers you could make it specific to a particular ministry, or you make it broad, and that will affect who you can recruit for the survey, who would be giving meaningful responses. So with this question, I might say, okay, I'm going to just cross these out here. So they're still visible, but you can see that our focus is in this area here. My broad question is, and then we mark our question there in quotation marks. So we present that. Okay, my broad question is, what are the factors that lead one-time volunteers at St. Mark's Presbyterian to not return? Answering this question is very important because the parish has experienced a significant drop in volunteers over the last 5 years. And many of our most active volunteers are planning to retire to Florida. And so now we have a reason to answer this here. Now, we can break this down into different factors, but the direction that we're going is saying, okay, this is a question that is important to us. to answer, not just because we like information and like to understand what's going on, but because we're expecting that this is going to be a problem soon, or perhaps it's a problem now when it's getting worse. And so it's good to have a follow-up. So if the parish does not recruit and retain new volunteers in significant numbers, then it will have to reduce volunteer programming, which will be unpopular. Now, looking at this, again, we can do a quick word count here. And by the way, this displays down in this corner here, it tells me 81 words are selected here. So while you can pop open a menu, search and go to tools word count, you can also just look down here after selecting. So you see, all right, that's 81 words. I need to write about 150. So, all right, we're off to a pretty good start. We need a couple more sentences and then we'll be there. So I could expand on this drop. I could expand on what we've tried so far, or because it is unclear why these volunteers say, okay, because it's unclear why they're not returning, we don't know what actions to take. Answering this question in depth will allow, and then you can list the things that you want or hope or plan to get out of this. All right, let's take a look at those instructions again and recap what we've done. So we've talked about understanding the organization, what the key details are for what you want to do. Why are you exploring this organization? What has led you to fixate on it? Now, it could be it's something that you're personally invested on, which is great. But it also might be something where there's a particular professional interest that you have related to this group or your engagement with it that leads you to be very interested. And that's fine. Tell us about that. Now, this next part, identifying the broad question that your survey is designed to answer. Now, if we were, say, in a master's or doctoral class, we might be talking about the research question that you are looking to answer. And in a general sense, this broad question here is a research question. This is the larger thing, but there will be smaller, more specific questions in the survey that you use to eventually get there. So a broad question or a research question is not something that lends itself to a yes, no answer. And it's not something that you'd expect that one person answering this would be able to give you the answer. Now, they might give you lots of individual answers that add up to that thing. But let's start with the question, okay, to answer this question, which in my case is, remember, we are trying to answer what are the factors that lead one-time volunteers at St. Mark's Presbyterian to not return? Well, we're looking at things like, okay, well, what do they like? What drew them to volunteer in the first place? And then what led them to not come back or to what are they doing instead? And we can ask questions about that. And this could include having an open-ended thing like, okay, well, what factors would make you more interested in returning? Now, sometimes it turns out to be something that's beyond your direct control. I remember one church I worked at, they had a lot of one-time volunteers who came in because parishioners were bringing in their significant other on date night. And it was one of those things where they said, okay, well, I'll do it one time, but just once. And so that was why they only came one time. I don't know what the question you'll be trying to answer with your organization, but that is the kind of thing where you might also have questions about, okay, what would make you want to come for the first time, or what would make you want to come multiple times? Because this is all getting at to trying to understand what isn't working and what would make things work. So it's two sides. What's going on right now? And what would it take to get to whatever state or situation we want to be at? All right. Now, as I said earlier, this is one of our very hyper-focused webinars. So we are going to be wrapping up things right here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat room or to follow up via email. But I hope that this has been a helpful introduction to the thought process that goes into planning a survey, because it really does come down to what you are interested in getting out of it. You can ask all sorts of questions. It'd be a shame to ask questions that don't lead to the answers that you want, or to the fundamental, the broad questions that you would like to understand so that you can do things differently. There's certainly room for understanding for the advancement of knowledge, but I think even better, even more compelling for getting people to take the survey, to sign up some of their time to help you out with this, is for them to understand that there is something specific that you are trying to make better in whatever sense or application that is. So with that, thank you for joining us this evening. The full recording will be posted to the website later this evening, and I hope you have a good night.